Hello, welcome to the DocTalk Show, a Podaholiks podcast with Dr. Jenna Burton and myself, James Pikeaway. Dr. Jenna is back. DocTalk is back, and for the next hour, we're going to talk about medical things that might be or might not be on your mind. This week, we start off with childbirth. I know you're saying, hold on, James, you're not going to be having any babies anytime soon, so what's going on here? Well, Dr. Jenna has two lovely twin boys, and she talks about some of the things that you might not necessarily think about as a new mother, as a new father, and gives us her perspective on just that. Let's get right to it. This is Doc Talk with Dr. Jenna Burton.
Randomly, I've seen it. We were looking at apartments and I saw a few with jacuzzis, and every time I saw one with a jacuzzi, I thought of you in the morning watching the planes go over.
That's the thing. I love my jacuzzi.
But you said you used to sit in it even in July.
Yeah, all year round. It's running all year. Unless we go away, I turn it off when we're not here. Just put the lid on and cover it up. But
God, I'd boil.
You know, you think you would, but you don't. You know?
It's probably quite a therapeutic process.
I think it is.
Well, now that they're starting to give suits, aren't they? Like sauna type suits. Have
Yeah,
you seen them?
Yeah.
They're like proper sauna suits, and it's to help you sweat to get rid of all the toxin, so they say. So I suppose it's exactly the same concept in water as opposed to dry heat.
We're just going to start going because Dr. Jenna's here. I'm here. And we're talking about, well, it's Doc Talk with Dr. Jenna. And away we go. We're picking up where we left off, and we're just having conversations. Sauna suits is a good place to start, but so much has changed in your life. I was trying to put my finger on when we did our last show because it's been a while.
I remember really clearly.
Do you remember? Okay, that's
I remember.
good.
There is a reason, because when we left the studio, there was a little cat that was stuck under a van, and me and my friend Joe, who was the nurse that joined us last time. We were both sort of clambering under this van trying to get this cat, and I was pregnant at the time, and I'd not long found out. So that must have been about March, April 2017.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like ages ago.
It was because I then carried on a year, and then the show got put on ice.
Yeah.
So we didn't do any Doc Talk. Once you left, that was it. There was no more Doc Talk.
Oh, do you know? I don't know whether that makes you feel good or bad.
Well, you know, and people used to say, "Why don't you bring back the show?" And I said, It requires a particular type of person, and there were other doctors before, and until you can find that right person, and I think we had a few people come through and we did a few things, but it just didn't work. Yeah. And it wasn't a conversation, and it wasn't, it just doesn't mix.
And we had some, we were just chatting then before about bringing people along, and we had some really nice people come and join us. I mean, we had one of my good friends, Dr. John, come on and tell us all about stem cell therapy and sports medicine, like really fascinating high-end stuff. And
he's is he still here? Because he was the knee guy, right? He's the orthopedic guy,
he's
wasn't
not
he?
Just knees, he looks at everything. In fact, I saw him just recently in his
he had the nicest
really
car picking him up when he was leaving.
Do you know, actually, if he ever listens to this, he'll be really annoyed. But last time I saw him, he was wearing electric purple shoes, and I was like, with a bright blue suit, and I was like, John, love it, love your style. So he's doing well, and he's experimenting in fashion and in sports medicine.
Neat.
But yeah, like it's lovely when you do come back to Dubai, because I've obviously been in the UK, and when you do come back, what I love about the healthcare industry here is it's quite tight. Yeah. So everybody seems to know each other, and you just have to walk into a clinic, or even on Facebook when people have got social media for their clinics, and you just know everybody, and it feels like a bit of a family, and it's lovely sort of coming back into that. Because you never really know what sort of response you're going to get when you arrive back in the country, do you?
Well, that's exactly it, and how it's going to have changed. I mean, you left for very particular reasons. I think you when you were pregnant, you've got two lovely boys now, but you were at that crossroads where, do I stay? We've got insurance, we've got all those issues that so many people confront, and you had to make the hard choice.
Well, what was frustrating is we thought that our insurance didn't cover my pregnancy, because we did an IVF we did IVF treatment. So my husband was like, Jenna, you need to get out of the country very quickly, because twin pregnancy, high risk, let's get out. So we left, went back home. I sort of picked up my life back at home for a while, and the decision was that as soon as we had the boys, is that I would come back out with them. And then anyway, my husband's job moved him back to the UK, and we set about starting up our life back in England. But I had this sort of small glimmer that we were going to be coming back to Dubai because my husband never ever changed his mobile number from his Dubai mobile number.
He kept his Dubai mobile number in the UK.
So I was getting phone calls from people that were saying, hello, is this Mrs. Donald? So I use Jenna Burton professionally, but I'm Mrs. Donald personally. I was saying, yes. So do I know who you are? They were like, oh, yes, Mr. Donald's dry cleaning is ready. And he was just handing out my number. So I was like, James, I'm not your PA. So you've got to start taking your own calls. And the fact that he, for 18 months, didn't change his phone, I thought, I know his plan. So then we became a ping pong Brit where we've ended up back in Dubai. And you appreciate it so much more when you come back the second time round.
Well, now you've come back with your husband and your 2 children now.
Yes. But sadly, my dog and my 2 cats are back in the UK. So we're bringing them over soon. I can't wait. So it doesn't feel like the family's quite complete yet in Dubai. My little animals, very important to me. So once they're over, the whole family's together.
I want to talk about pregnancies for a second.
Yes.
So you obviously have these 2 lovely boys now.
They were great.
You went through the whole process, IVF, and then carrying these boys. Did it give you? I mean, you're a doctor. You're in the medical profession. You've gone through this process with other people. Did it give you a different perspective being a mother yourself?
Definitely, it did. For a whole variety of reasons, actually. So, first of all, if we just think about pregnancy, for instance, I was somewhat of an anxious mess, I would say, during pregnancy, which I definitely didn't anticipate.
I wouldn't have anticipated that. I mean,
No.
You've got the textbooks. You read very well. You know lots of people. You're the last person I would have anticipated being anxious.
Yeah, and I don't think I expected to be, but I definitely was. Partially because you never, in medicine, very rarely, especially because the type of medicine I tend to see more of is acute medicine, you only tend to see people when things have gone wrong.
Right.
So I can't even begin to tell you how many people I've had to tell that they're in the middle of a miscarriage, they're having a miscarriage, something's gone wrong, we need to refer you to obstetrics, they're bleeding, etc. So I lived in complete paranoia, and I've heard such terrible stories of things that have happened to people. And the reality is that's such a small percentage of pregnancies. Most are healthy, most do go on to deliver healthy babies, but you have a bit of a warped view of what's actually going to happen. And also because previously we didn't think we could have children, I think part of me psychologically didn't believe I was ever going to have children, and even now I don't really believe they're mine. So it was so
borrowed, rented them.
I kid you, honestly, James, I kid you not. I had to fill in a form. One of my little boys was in hospital a little while ago, as lots of children are when they're little. Yeah. And I filled in the form, and it said mum's details, and I put my mum's details. And they said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I thought you were the mother. And I said, oh, I am? Yeah. And they said, so who's this Sue Burton? I was like, oh, God. Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, me. I'm the mum. Yes. You want my details. So I think I also just didn't really appreciate it. Yeah. And also just from a scientific point of view, you can't help but extrapolate to the things that can go wrong. So although you've witnessed
because you're in the profession, and as you said, you've told people, oh, you're having a miscarriage, or you've seen that you just suddenly all the worst case scenarios as you're feeling all these things happening, and hormones and other things, but all these physiological changes, and you're kind of, oh, hold on, what about this? What about that?
Definitely, because you can't just think, oh, I've got even when you're not pregnant, you can't just think, oh, my dad's got a cough. You always think of the worst. When it's you can easily sort of swipe it away and I'm sure it's nothing. But when it's like, especially your children, you just think of the worst
and
case.
you had 2 at one time. I mean,
and so then the risks of having multiple pregnancies, etc. So, that definitely doctors are a little bit, I'd say, a bit more health anxious than most. And it definitely affected me to sort of the most it's ever affected me, I would say, during pregnancy and when the boys were tiny, when they were sort of very teeny tiny, because they're just so small. And again, you're thinking, oh gosh, premature babies, what can happen?
Sure, lung things and stuff.
Yeah, and it did. It affected them, and sort of then that confirms your fears a little bit, and so then that probably makes you a little bit worse.
Did anything surprise you? I mean, and that's a weird kind of question, but out of this whole process of having your children, was there anything that kind of made you went, huh?
Right. So the biggest thing is that I suddenly feel like I've aged about 100 years. Like to look at, and
you don't look like you've aged 100 years at all.
Honestly, I never really. So I perform cosmetic procedures. I'm trained to do so, and I really enjoy doing so. And I used to do little
I'm thinking
bits.
about. I gotta get my nose fixed. By the way, we need to talk after. But look at this. I mean, I'm just gonna interrupt. But as you're talking, look at it. It needs. It's uneven. It's always been.
So hardly anybody's nose is even for kickoff.
Yeah,
James.
but look at how uneven it is. I'm thinking it's. Yeah. Anyway,
depends how much it's bothering you. I think it's a beautiful nose, but it does depend how much it's bothering you. Is what I would
just
say.
Just keep looking, and we'll see by the end what you're thinking.
If it makes you feel any better, my brother's nose is so wonky; it's at 90 degrees to the left of his face, and he doesn't even care. Like that's what I love about him. He doesn't even care. But yeah, so like normally before you're pregnant, you're walking along the road and you see maybe there's an attractive chap that walks past. This is obviously before I was married, but there'd be like a mutual, like just sort of have a little look, check each other out and carry on. And that's just human nature. You can't help it. Then suddenly you're pregnant, your fingers are swollen up, your legs have swollen up. You look totally different. I felt I was the image of my mum when I was pregnant. I suddenly looked like really mumsy. And suddenly,
but you were going to be a mum.
I know that's what James, my husband, said, and I was like, but James, I don't want to look like one. And anyway, suddenly these men, they are totally blind to you. They're not even remotely. They're not even checking you out. You are invisible to them. And then suddenly there's all these little old ladies, and they're looking at you and they're giving this sweet smile. And it's just like, God, when did this happen to me? Yeah. And then when the boys are born, you instantly feel like you're a bit of an old Scrooge, really. So there's a
maybe
friend...
that's because you're tired.
Yes, it could very well be. Sleep deprivation is a killer. And you walk around and you've...
Fog. There's a fog.
Oh my God. Is there a fog? Do I remember anything from the first 12 months of the boys being born? Literally nothing. You don't have your hair straightened. Your nails aren't done. You very rarely wear makeup. In fact, my mum one day said, I've forgotten what you look like, actually, Jenna, when you wear makeup. You are like totally wrecked. Yeah. But it's not about you anymore. And I think I never thought I was a selfish person, to be honest. And then I look back and I think maybe I actually was a bit selfish because I would get up and I'd do what I wanted that day. I would have time to myself. It was all about making sure that if we had a night out, that my hair was done. I was so conscious about what I was wearing. And now it's just about survival. And if you get the time to do your hair and make yourself feel nice, that's a cherry on the top. But if you have to go out and you look a wreck, you actually don't care anywhere near as much because you're just grateful to be out and having a good time. So there's just that shift in focus from yourself to somebody else. And because you've had, you're the same situation. You've got 2 boys as well.
Just mine are at the opposite extreme for you. Mine have now... We're empty nesters. Yes. They've left. Both boys are gone.
And how did that affect you though? Because that's another big condition, You
know what the big thing is, and people always say, "Oh, do you miss having your boys?" I said, "Of course we miss having our boys. Like we were that family that traveled together. We went on vacations together. In fact, the boys came back at Christmas time, which they do because this is home for them. My boys came here when they were 3 years and 18 months. Wow. So this is home. And they may live in Canada now, but their bedrooms are here, their stuff is here, their friends are here, their whole life was here, and we then went on vacation together from here on over the New Year's and went away because that's what we do. We just pack up and let's go and let's hope we make our flights and let's have some fun. But you know what the big change is? So having them go. And they're young men, so they will make their own mistakes. They never listen to me anyway. And then they realize after that, I should have listened to you, Dad, or you actually do know something. But the big change for us with them leaving, and as an empty nester, there are benefits where I don't now have to think, what are my kids eating, and are they entertained, and I can do what I want to do again. But the big problem or the challenge for us is I don't know what's going on in their lives anymore. So I do because they call, but I don't know every moment of their life. Like they're going to university. I know what they tell me, but I don't see their work. I don't see them on a day-to-day basis. If they are having a relationship issue, I'm not there to help them with that. And I don't even know if we were in the same city, if we would be as involved in their lives. And we went from controlling and being, controlling literally because you were there. We were there for everything to now, only there for the best parts.
Well, you're there.
That's
You're
hard.
the SOS phone as and when they need it now.
Well, we were talking about that one of them was traveling and he got delayed, and he knew what to do and he was doing it, but he still gave us a call at 2 a.m. And I thought that was really actually kind of nice. And like, okay, that's cool. And we talk for 10 minutes and then say, okay, well, text me when you get it sorted out. He goes, okay, I will. Bye.
But this is the thing, is that I personally believe that you have got to let your children live their own life.
Yeah.
And it's something I actually think I'm going to struggle with a lot more than I thought I would. It's all very well saying everything when you don't have children. When they're there, you want to be involved in everything. That's it. They've got to go out and they've got to live their own life. And sadly, you can't smother them, especially not at the age that yours are at now. And you've got to let them go.
They do
and
their
they will.
stuff.
Yeah,
we just hang out. We go and visit them and enjoy it, and it's fun. But it's you kind of miss knowing the date, knowing them, that there's no blow by blow anymore. I don't know every single piece of what's going on. I miss that a little bit.
Well, to be honest, I guess it's almost the same for the situation I'm in now, because back in England, I was telling you I did a lot of locum work, so it was absolutely ideal for sort of a new mum, because you could just say, right, I'm just going to take a few shifts here and there. And I did actually do a few shifts just because my husband was not appreciating how hard it was looking after the boys.
A little payback time.
Honestly, so there was a few nights, and it was so much easier to go to work for a night.
That's mean.
It's James, it is true. So he was working in London and I was living up in the north of England, just because of where his work was, and I was near family because he travels so much. So when he'd come back, he'd be like, oh, Jenna, you've been flouncing around all week and I've been working hard. So I said, tell you what, James, I'll work this weekend then, shall I? And you can look after the boys. And I had a real strong word with the boys. And I said, now, if you sleep tonight, I'm going to be really cross. You best be on your worst behaviour. And so I would go off to work in the evening, and I swear it was a lot easier than being at home. When they're fresh babies, and they cry and they want things and you're not too sure what you're doing. Anyway, he never, ever once complained again. But now we're in the situation where I'm getting into more regular work and the boys will be going to nursery every day.
That's tough.
And again, because I'm used to knowing every single little quirk, what each little cry means, what each little moan means. And suddenly I won't be as involved either. And I don't know, it's a lot harder for the mums, I think, than for the children. They're okay with it, but it's for us, and I think, oh God, I'm not going to be as a significant part of your life as I have been.
The other thing that when I think of, people always say, oh, it gets easier when they get older, and I always say it doesn't. It has never, with my boys, it's never gotten easier from day 1 till day 23. It's never gotten easier. It's just different.
I don't want to hear that, James.
I'm telling you, it doesn't get easier. And it's funny because parents always say, oh, it goes so fast. And it doesn't feel like it's going fast. I mean, it was funny. You were talking about some asthma issues that you were having with one of your sons, and my oldest son was the same thing. We were in the first 2 years. We were in the hospital. Oh, and it was always, it would seem, so we were back in Canada, we were in Montreal. It would be a Friday night at 8:00. We'd be going to the hospital and he'd be in there for overnight or, a couple of nights with getting asthma treated. And, so I was the guy sleeping in the hospital, and then my wife would come, we'd trade shifts. And, we all would not, it can't get worse than this. And it's like, it hasn't ever gotten worse, but it's just always something that's going on in their lives. It's like, really? How come no one ever told me about all this?
I think they probably did, but you blind. You don't listen to it, do you? It's like you saying you tell your sons and they don't listen to you. Yeah. It's exactly the same. We don't change at any age, do we?
But I still even to this day when we're talking to the boys and we're talking about things, and I say, and it's, I guess the best thing we ever did is we have lots and lots of photos, and hard copies. They're all on. We put them all on. We've got like a giant picture wall that takes up really 2 walls of our house, and they're all very close together, and they sort of chronicle from day 0 to where they are now. And I kind of look at that and I think, that 0 to 6 were the coolest years. Not that these aren't really cool, because you can talk. I mean, my kids are adults, so you can talk to them, you can have a debate, you can go on to things, and they're very different in the way you interact. But those early years where the kids just depend on you, and I think it's when they walking around with capes on or skipping around or just rolling in places, and they don't care. And I'm thinking, I want those years. Not that I want those years back with my boys, although
they were just lovely.
They
years,
were
lovely
years.
memories.
Oh man, and I just kind of think, where do we lose that? Like when did the inhibitions come in where you no longer want to skip or wear a Superman cape, or those were just fun years.
Oh my gosh, I've dressed the boys up in so many novelty outfits.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's not a novelty outfit, it's not getting worn.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say about photographs. So I take loads of photographs of the boys, and James has got a great phone because the cameras now are excellent on phones,
isn't it
aren't they?
amazing?
And some of them they look like professional photographs, and he's always taking videos. But our boys have now become so obsessed with phones, and I worry. So we don't let them have our phones, and I guess they haven't really looked into enough research yet as to what's considered appropriate for children and at what age to have them. But my gut instinct is they shouldn't really be around phones right now. But because we're taking photographs so much on our phones, I think they've seen it as like, this is something that I want, you've got it, I want it. And we're having a real battle actually getting the phones off them. Yeah. And
learned behavior. I mean, they just seen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually more paranoid about trying to not take, I want the photographs, but I'm so paranoid about them just seeing this phone attached to my hand. Because these days you can't just enjoy anything. You have to take the photograph as well, don't you? Yeah. I'm actually trying to reduce how many photographs I take. Okay. My friends on Facebook will say I still take as many. But to me, it seems less.
Well, and you know what? I was the pre-phone thing with my boys at one point, so it was always cameras and that. Now only lately has it become phone stuff. But it's hard. And I always find the hard part with kids is there's so many people talking and writing and literature and online. Oh man, it's this second judging of ourselves. It's like, am I doing it okay? Am I doing all right? Have I done okay? It's like, where do you draw? I find it hard.
It's so weird because the boys have just started to become a little bit naughty, so they're now pushing boundaries.
How old are your boys now?
They're 16 months.
Yeah.
So we found them. They love like trying to get on the coffee table and jumping on the settee. So we're saying no. So one of the little guys shakes his finger at me, smiles and carries on. And I thought, oh God, maybe I was thinking maybe he doesn't really know what I mean. And then I later said, Jack, put your hat on, and he put it on. And I said, put the hat on me, and he put it on me, and I thought, you know exactly what I'm saying. And it's like, nobody's taught me how to discipline. And then when I'm out and about and if they are being a bit naughty, I worry that people are judging me for how I'm trying to discipline them. And I never thought I'd feel so exposed. But you think, oh gosh,
discipline's the hardest part.
Oh, it's so embarrassing as well.
Because clearly people are judging you.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I know I've done it myself. And you kind of look at kids right now and think, oh, what are those parents letting those kids run around for?
Yes.
What kind of parents would let their kids run around like that? And then I was like, hold on a second, my kids used to do that.
But the thing is that there is literally no rule book, and everyone's got an opinion. So now one of the big things is weaning as well. So in England, for instance, because that's where we were when we started weaning the boys, there was this big thing called baby-led weaning. So rather than trying to spoon feed a baby, you just give them some food, put them on a tray, and let them pick it up, explore the food, and eat it themselves.
It could be dangerous.
Well, oh my gosh, our kitchen was a mess perpetually. And our dog got really fat because
the dog loves it, right?
Well, yeah, it was just sort of like running around underneath the boys, eating all the food. But this is now what they say should be the fundamental for how you should wean babies. They say it reduces the risk of suffocation because the baby is like sort of playing with the food. It's not being forced upon them. And it also helps them to eat a whole wide variety of foods, and they won't eat past when they're full. Whereas when you're sort of forcing a spoon, sometimes they'll eat more. And when they're full. Okay, well, interestingly, I found this really interesting. I read the other day.
Do you think it works, this whole baby-led weaning?
I hated it, James. Okay. I mean, I get the concept.
I get the concept, and I'm just going, really?
Well, what I was going to say is when I was doing it, my mum and my mother-in-law were so judgmental, and they kept saying, that's why they're not sleeping in the night. No, and I'd be like...
That's even worse than other people. It's your own family because they feel they've got license.
Yeah, but then I felt as if, I'm going to keep doing it, because I was like, if you can't tell me what to do, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm thinking inside, I really wish I'd sort of spoon-fed the babies. But so eventually I did switch. I totally get the concept of baby-led weaning. I potentially didn't do it properly. A lot of my friends have done it successfully. Yeah. But they say that the reason is that because of, like, from many, many years ago, caveman times, our mindset is set to try and overfeed babies,
sure,
in case
makes
of a
sense.
famine comes.
Yeah.
And because I get paranoid, and I know other friends do, if the boys don't eat enough.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to force foods upon them. But they say as well, this is what's leading to childhood obesity because we're encouraging children to overeat.
Okay.
So that's the concept behind baby-led weaning. Didn't work for me. But that's another area where always being judged.
Yeah, exactly. What they're eating, and I remember just little things when we had our boys as babies. We used cloth diapers, and people was like, "Oh, you were so green," and this. Are you kidding? I couldn't afford the Pampers. I was a grad student, so we went and bought all these cloth diapers with the liners and all that. But it was economically, it was much more affordable than going and buying pamper after pamper after pamper. And it was just because it was in, then the same token, people would say, oh, you make your own baby food. Only because it's more affordable,
yes.
Not because it was any less work.
But then now it's almost the other way around, actually, James. Yeah. So I would be judged because I've used Pampers and I've not used eco nappies. And again, that was just purely on a time convenience. And because I mean, there was a period where I was completely addicted to Ella's kitchen pouches and all the other kitchen pouches. There's, Heinz, Hip, they all do them. And it was because there was one night I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning cooking the boys' food to try and make it sort of into more of a baby type porridge. And I thought, what am I doing when on the shelves in the supermarket I can go and throw a little tiny bit of money at the situation and have such increased convenience? Because there was a time back in the UK it really was so sleep deprived, and it was really hard.
Sleep deprivation, people don't realize how this really it just happens. And I always remember people saying to my wife, well, when the babies are sleeping, you sleep. And she'd go, it doesn't quite work that way.
Well, because
all the time.
So when babies are first born, their body clock isn't set.
Yeah.
And often you tend to find, in fact, it's the wrong way around.
Yeah, our boys were reversed.
Yeah, it's very, very common. And so even when you're pregnant, you'll often notice that you'll get more movements of a nighttime, partially because you're not aware of them during the day because you're busy, but also because babies tend to, and I'm not too sure for the reason why, tend to be awake more during the night. So over daytime, especially when you first had a baby, you've got visitors coming in, you feel like you're climbing the walls, you need to get out. So then when you're ready to go to bed, well, they wake up and they're ready to play. And plus, because we had 2, it was just ridiculous. I slept on the couch for 3 weeks because there was just no point going to bed. It was just, there's no point. I need to be near the kitchen. I need to be near a television or some sort of entertainment because really I'm not going to be sleeping. And when James was there, we could split the night, which I'd say to any new sort of parents, definitely a good idea. But if you can get anyone in to just give you a hand here and there, don't be afraid to take it.
I think that's such good advice, is just take some help, get some help if you can, because you need it. And it's not, I think a lot of parents, mothers and fathers think it's a sign of weakness.
I did. I was, in fact, I think the words used by my mum were "stop being a martyr," because I just didn't feel like, I felt bad. I felt like, am I palming my children off on somebody? But the fact is that I just had childbirth. I was highly, highly anemic. I was literally living on...
It was like check boxes. You're like the poster child here.
I don't really... When I look back, I don't really know how I got through that period. And I think it was probably just like so made up to have the boys. And they were so cuddly and gorgeous. And it was nice because all these people came out the woodwork to come and visit us. But really, we had a natural birth, so we were lucky that I was back on my feet quicker. But your body's still gone through something that's quite traumatic. And in the hospital we were in, James couldn't stay. So we were induced. So no sleep that night. Then I was in labour, gave birth. Then James had to go home. So then I was on my own looking after the 2 boys. I didn't have a clue what I was doing for the next sort of 4 nights. That was literally an hour's sleep approximately for those nights. Then you get home and it was like the most hysterical night of our lives. Honestly, we were just like running around thinking, what on earth are we doing here? No sleep that night. And again, you're just picking up like an hour, 2 hours a night at most. And you think it's amazing what the human body can do. But if you have got the opportunity to have sleep, it's not a sign of weakness. And I look back, and if we ever had any more children, I would definitely be a lot more inclined to say, you know what, you've got to take your own oxygen mask first, otherwise you can't look after others.
Which is great advice. It really, looking back at it, it's like, wow, how did we do it, isn't it?
It's actually a bit stupid, really, if I look back, because I think there were people offering, and I was probably not...
Take them up on it. When people offer, if they're going to offer and you say... I think so often we're all the same when people offer you something. It's like, no, like you said, I don't want to show weakness. I can do it. I'm a mother.
Yes, but the problem is that it's not really safe.
Well, that's the other side.
Yes, I mean, if you're not eating because you're so tired, so you're highly hypoglycemic, you're so exhausted. And I remember there was a few nights that my mum had offered to stay, but I wouldn't let her come up. I'd like to look after the boys, but she was in the house. She was on a whole different floor. The boys were screaming in the bed next to me, and I was fast asleep. And she came up and she said she really struggled to wake me because I'd gone into such a deep sleep.
Wow.
And I thought, oh gosh, okay, maybe I need to change something now.
Yeah.
So it's safety. It's a real safety issue. It's not just about being selfish, thinking, oh, I need to get a few more hours sleep.
Well, and it's all the things. I mean, you're taking care of another life now. You've got to make decisions. And if you're tired and exhausted, you could make a poor decision that you don't want to make.
And plus, if people are breastfeeding as well, sometimes, you've got to enable your milk production.
Oh, man. That's a whole other story, isn't it? Just getting that right.
Yes, which is harder than people think, actually.
We had I remember, and I guess they still do it now, but we had a coach come in to literally help my wife to make sure that she understood what she was doing and how did it's I don't know, somewhere along the line it's figured, well, you have a baby, breastfeeding, it's just going to happen naturally. It's like, no. And there was all sorts of things that this coach was talking about, and I mean it was it was what was the one that I'd never even thought of? There was chafing and there was chapping and there was that and
worse
and worse and then just getting the right position so flow happens, and it was really wild.
Do you know, it's funny, but whenever you go to an antenatal class, they just say, okay, so when you're breastfeeding, and then you won't leave the hospital till you're able to breastfeed. And now, before the boys were born, my mum had said, Jenna, go and get some milk. Just get some formula in case you need it. And I was like, absolutely not, Mum. I'd bought a twin breastfeeding cushion. And I said, there's no way I'm using formula. I'm going to be breastfeeding. Anyway, our boys were born young. They had low blood sugar when they were born. They said, we're sorry, we're going to have to give them formula straight away because their levels are low. Do you mind? I said, no, do whatever's appropriate. And then we just couldn't get it to work. And we tried for weeks. It wasn't working. So I ended up expressing, which was an absolute nightmare. So it was a mixture then of express milk and formula. And if I ever was out and I had to get the formula out ready...
I would have thought expressing would be easy.
James, you've never done it.
No, I know. But they make it look so easy on the boxes, and then get a machine if you do. And it's one of those things again. Like, I don't think in our household, my wife never expressed. And we kind of did what they tell you not to do. So my wife would sleep through the nights. And my babies would get up. And so we literally gave them formula at night in a bottle. So I would get up and give them formula at night. And then my wife would breastfeed. My boys breastfed for, I don't know, probably almost 2 years, maybe.
Do you know, though, I look back and I think the advice that I would give mums now is totally different to the advice I would have given previously. So I would have said, breastfeed exclusively for 6 months, by all means possible. Now I appreciate the exhaustion and how much you're doing, and the fact that they're feeding literally every sort of 2-3 hours. You've got to change
which really makes a big difference, doesn't it, when you start thinking about it. They're hungry too.
But it's not even just that. Like, if you think every 2-3 hours, it takes them a long time to feed because they're tiny. So it takes them that time to feed, and then you've got to change the nappies, and then you're back on the next cycle again. And that's without.
And you've got to eat in there somewhere and
do the laundry because there's like tons of laundry. And in fact, our boys were they were soaking through their clothes, and we thought they were sweating, but it turns out we weren't putting the nappy on properly. So they were going through tons of clothes every day, and we didn't even have that many. And now I think you've just got to do what's right for you. If you can breastfeed, of course, that's going to be the best. And I don't say that I don't harbour a guilt about not breastfeeding exclusively for 6 months. I do. And again, if we ever had any more children, I would love to try and give that a go because I do think it's important. But let's be realistic about the situation and that it just doesn't work for some people. My boys just didn't take to it. We tried and tried. We had people in, we had midwives, we had, again, like you had coaches come in. They told me what to do. It wasn't happening. And as it wasn't happening, they get more used to the bottle. So then they're becoming lazy about trying. And before you know it, it just felt like, you know what, I think it's time to give up and just accept that we just need to feed them. So you've just got to do what's right for you.
Which becomes, again, it's getting that into your head. You've got to draw that line in the sand at some point and just say, okay, we've done what we can do. We're trying, but
But it's hard. It goes back to that point, James, you made about being judged. And every time I'm there with the formula, not now because they're older, but when I had the formula with me, I would feel like, honestly, a deep set of, oh, please just don't judge me. And I'm sorry, boys, as in everyone knew I was doing something wrong. And it's sad that any mum should be made to feel like that when really you're giving your entire life to these children and trying to do the best for them.
I sometimes wonder how much people are really judging. You know, it's like I when I see mums struggling and dads struggling with their kids and trying to get them fed, and I'm watching the kids not eating and, you know, flying on a plane and the kids are going crazy. It's just like, oh, I feel, you know, I don't, there's no judging there. It's just like, I know exactly where you are because I had boys on planes too, and they were babies. And at one point they were on a lap. They weren't even on a seat. And it was like, those were days. I totally get it.
I kind of wonder whether it's different now with our generation, because my grandma, wonderful, wonderful lady, she's 92 years of age, and we went out shopping. I often take my grandma out shopping, and she can't walk independently. So I go out, I take my grandma out, you know, you really are taking her out. She's too adamant to be in a wheelchair. And there was one day that I took her out with the boys, and they were tiny. And we had a proper meltdown. I mean, all of a sudden, the boys decided they were hungry. Oh, no. They screamed all the way through to the counter. My grandma needs to have something to eat and drink regularly, otherwise it makes her lightheaded. I had to go and get that. I come back, she's flapping around the boys. I'm like, Grandma, you need to sit down. You can't stay stood. One of them projectile vomits all down me. The other one screaming, throws his milk everywhere. The whole of the restaurant stopped and turned to look at me. And you could see, like, it had all gone quiet. And my grandma was like, Jenna, people are going to think that you can't cope. And I was like, well, Grandma, I'm not coping particularly well this minute, am I? Now, that doesn't really bother me, to be honest, but she was highly, highly embarrassed. And I think
maybe it is a generational thing. I mean, maybe there, you know, that generation, our grandmothers, was a different world.
But she even tells me, so from a health perspective, that if she was poorly, she would never tell her husband, so my granddad. She said, I could never tell your granddad. You just go to the doctors in private about it. And it was actually a big taboo to be seriously ill. It was a huge taboo. So I think
a lot of hiding of things, a lot of putting on that stiff upper lip and just, we'll get through this.
And now we write everything all over Facebook, don't we? So we've become I think, a lovely open generation. And I love the fact that we're open. I love that I can speak to my friends about everything. I love that we laugh about everything. But I do think that is a shift from what it was previously.
I sometimes I think there's just so much information out there that we in a sense judge ourselves. Well, how come? And we see it all on Facebook and on Instagram, and this family is doing it like this, and it's like, really? Is any family really doing it that well? Like, they make it look so good, but what worked for X doesn't necessarily work for Y.
Well, you can say that definitely. We've got two twins, exactly the same upbringing so far, 16 months. They are entirely different children. In fact, they don't even look related. And we have a bit of a joke that because they were IVF, we're not 100% sure they are related. we think so.
I like that joke. That's a good one.
But honestly, like, you can just see how one thing will work for one and one works for another. And it's so confirmed to me that there is just not one rule.
Give me an example. I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, it's okay. More so with feeding. Okay. So we've got little Jack. It literally, you can just feed him forever. And
he'll just eat anything.
Yeah. Whereas, and so you just sit him down, keep him going.
Yeah.
Whereas Linky Dink, or Lincoln as his name actually is, you have got to distract him all the time. So you have to give him a fork or a little plate so he thinks he's feeding himself. Or you have to give him like a rice cake to hold whilst you feed him.
Interesting.
Or put something on in the background. But he really needs a lot of sort of like distraction in order to actually, because he doesn't want you to feed him. He's so independent.
Wow.
And then for sleeping, Lincoln, you can just give him a bottle. He turns over, goes to sleep, or at least he used to. He's starting to get a bit more difficult. And Jack, you'd have to sit there and you'd have to stroke his face. I know there's a lot of people will say that the sleeping is another big thing.
Oh,
That's not what you're supposed to do. But I stroke him to sleep. Don't look at him in the eye, otherwise he wants to play, and just do anything to sort of soothe him, settle him, and make him feel loved to sleep. Yeah.
You got to do what works. I mean, that's it. And, you know, there's just let them cry themselves to sleep, or it's like, I don't know. It's. I think we've tried all of those. I think at one point we did do that one. And it just was too much.
Well, somebody came up to me recently. We've got like a little twin group.
That's a good thing. And you know, that is one of the things that we loved when we moved here. Yes. And I think those people that we met through the toddler groups are the same people we're still together with now.
Oh, really?
20 years down the road, there are people in that group that we still have conversations with, and all of our children are much older now, and we still meet each other. We still get together.
I strongly believe the best time to make friends is when you first have children.
Yep.
And nobody, if anybody like does ever listen to this and is feeling a bit lonely and they've had children, it's so easy to get to one of those groups.
Yeah.
There's baby sensory, there's free ones, there's stay and plays, there's always different things. In fact, I took my dad to baby cinema this morning.
Okay, there you go.
And there's just loads of people sitting around chatting and bonding, and you're all in the same position.
And no one's judgmental in those groups. That's the other thing. Everyone
Yes.
realizes it's different for all of us, but here's what works for me. Maybe I can help you with this. Or if you're looking for something. Oh, I know a place in this one. I just love those groups.
Yeah, no, they've been sort of a real lifeline.
I like the baby
for us.
cinema. That's new.
Yeah,
Ish.
it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
If you get to watch the film, that's great. So it's not actually. My dad thought we were going to watch a children's film today, and I was like, "No, Dad, it's a very adult film." But the children come along, and I normally try and time it.
And the
with
volume's
boys
down
now.
a little bit in the film, right?
And the lights are up a little bit, so you
Okay.
can attend to the children.
Right.
And
But you can still get nachos and all that good stuff.
So actually, they give. Not to mention the name of the place, but they give like a
You can
lovely
mention
big.
you can mention the name of the place. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, well, I love Roxy Cinema.
Okay.
In City Walk, it's absolutely brilliant. You turn up, they give you omelettes. They've got.
They give you almost.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost me though?
So it's about 100 dirhams.
Okay, but so I'm getting an environment that's not too noisy. It's a little bit lighter, and they're giving me some food for 100 Ds. I'm in.
And you can have like unlimited water, coffee, pastries.
There you go.
It's great, and they're so good. And they even have a little changing table outside.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do a whole. We'll do a whole other. We'll do a carry-on show. But the changing table thing. Oh, that used to get me mad because we'd go out with our boys, and we're a progressive family, so it wasn't always my wife would do the changing,
Yes.
and I would end up in places where there's no changing tables or something, and it's like, well, where am I supposed to change this baby? And it was like.
I love that you don't like that because James uses that as an excuse all the time not to change the nappies, and I'm like, James, I can see one over there. It's in the disabled toilet.
Yeah,
But no,
find it. Yeah.
It's a real. It is actually a problem, isn't it?
It would make me angry. He's like, well, I've got the boys. I got to change it. Where am I going to do this? On this dirty floor? And if I had to, you'd, put down a plastic thing and people would come in and what are you doing? It's like, well, guy's got to do what a guy's got to do.
Well, I totally agree, actually. And I also believe in completely equal parenting as far as possible and as far as work allows. But that's not just a thing here. It's also back in the UK. You'll often find in the women's changing room that's where they have the changing mat. And in the women's toilets have the changing mat. And like, what do you do if you're a single dad? What if you've lost your wife? Like.
Yeah, you're finished. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the Roxy Cinema. So they got changing tables there too.
They've got changing tables.
Are the omelets good? I'm really curious.
So the cheese that they put in is the really like plastic cheese slice.
Yeah.
That personally I feel is the best cheese
I
in the
love
world.
that slice.
Yeah.
I love
Makes
that.
such good omelette.
Craft slices.
Yes,
I live for those
those
things.
ones. Yeah.
I know everyone says, "Oh, it's the worst cheese." Don't say that to a French person. They're like,
No,
c'est pas le fromage. C'est quoi ça?
Yeah, it's no brie, but it makes a really cracking omelette.
Grilled cheese sandwiches too. You put that in a grilled cheese.
Do you know, this just reminds me of when I was pregnant with the boys, how they never came out looking like cheese sandwiches.
Were you
potatoes.
you needed cheese sandwiches? That was it.
Grilled cheese sandwiches and baked potatoes with cheese on top. I couldn't face the thoughts of anything else.
You want to know what's really good, and it's inside pierogies or put ahead if you come from the Ukrainian part of Canada where my family's from. Mashed potatoes. So you mash them all up, put them through the mixer so they're really smooth, and put cheese whiz into the potatoes.
What on earth is cheese whiz?
Oh, you know those cheese slices?
Oh, yeah.
In a jar.
Oh my god!
So you know how you can buy that cheese in a jar that's white, but you go into the. So where do they usually sell it? So I think at Spinneys it's sold by. I think it's in the section because it's not refrigerated. In the section where you get your chips with dips, and sometimes you'll see
I do
whiz.
know what you mean.
But in other places, it's in the cheese rack.
I mean, it's totally not good for you.
No, there's nothing good in it, but it tastes really good in mashed potatoes.
Well, I was going to say, I honestly, before I was pregnant, I had this big thing about I'm going to eat just vegetables. I'm going to be like, just drink water and be so healthy.
Yeah.
I want to have a really healthy pregnancy. But the fact is that I was so overridden with this desire for carbohydrates. And I don't even eat so many carbohydrates anyway. And I like every time I'd cook myself vats of vegetables and thinking, well, if I cook it, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
And then I'd just be, honestly, almost sick when I was trying to eat it. I really couldn't get it down. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to end up being morbidly obese. Like when the boys come, I'm going to still want to eat these foods. I'm going to be so obese.
No.
And the night that I gave birth, it was so weird, but all I really wanted to eat was a salad. And I thought, thank you, whoever's out there, thank you for giving me my normal taste buds back. But how weird that is.
Yeah, that is really weird.
And if that's
I'd love to hear from other moms if that's happened to them as well. I think
yeah.
that'd be cool.
I'd also like to know why. I actually don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be a shift in hormones, but surely it's not that quick, because I'm talking literally within an hour of the
Maybe
boys
it's a
being
psychosomatic thing that happened. Just, you know, who knows?
But that's it. But I was just thought, thank you for my love of salads being back. Because I could just see myself living in a chip shop or ordering a big baked potato for the rest of my life from London Fish and Chips. So
that doesn't sound bad.
No, it's good to have as a treat now and again,
Yeah.
but to have as my daily fix is probably not really a good idea.
No.
And that's the other thing, actually, is when you do give birth, you want to be healthy. And it's very difficult, actually, when the first one, because you are just trying to survive and you're trying to eat in between everything else. And if you have any friends that ever need a gift when they're pregnant, the best gifts I got were some frozen healthy meals.
Oh, really? See, I would never think of that. This is a good option.
I kid you not. Any friend now that has a baby, it'd be the first thing that I would take around, would just be some frozen meals that they can use at leisure, because it is so hard to go food shopping. It's so hard to get out, especially, I mean, I was on my own quite a lot because my husband was working away. So I'd have to ask people when they come around and they'd say, do you want anything? I'd be like, I'm really sorry to ask, but would you mind bringing me just like a few items of food? Because there was nothing in. Yeah. And there was 1 week that not as many people could come to visit. So I ate loads of cornflakes, because back in England, it's not like here where you can just order, especially where I'm from, you can't order like Deliveroo or Uber Eats. And when anybody brought some meals, it was like a lifeline.
Wow. See, that's a sage piece of advice that probably a lot of people don't even think, because I often think, you know, when new families, new moms, and a lot, you know, there's a lot of dads that are working obviously and not around, and people never think of some of these really common sense things that you don't think about that just make it easy. Something I can throw into the microwave, or something I can warm up in a pot really quick, and it's ready made, it's done.
Yeah, or even just go out. It sounds silly, but bring them a cooked meal. Yeah. There's nothing like having a cooked meal, and you really need like really good nutrients. And
what a great idea.
Well, I naturally I tend to actually enjoy healthy foods. It's a bit of a joke with my friends. I swear
you're like the only person.
But I do like unhealthy foods as well. But my favourite thing is vegetables. I could eat vegetables morning, noon, and night. I really love overcooked
next
cauliflower.
time I'm gonna bring you one of my juices then, because you're gonna love it, because this is my vegetable juice, which someone said to me sounds more like a soup, and I said, no, it doesn't taste like soup. It tastes like vegetable juice, but.
James,
you'd like it.
I don't think,
I think you could do it.
Vegetables should be vegetables.
Have you ever drank eggplant?
No, and I mean, it turns my stomach.
No, this is a really fab. It looks like toxic waste, but tastes brilliant. I do a liter of this a day.
I mean, that's great. I'm really pleased. But I would rather put in the microwave like my preheated pre-made vegetables.
You don't want to drink them? No. The face you're making. We need to be on video. The face is like, you're going to make me hurl right now.
It's like, I love water, but I can't drink hot water. It makes me feel really nauseous. Yeah. And I've done juicing diets. I've tried. I mean, I don't advocate.
No, it's not a juicing diet. It's a way of life for me. I eat regular food too.
But it makes me. It actually makes me feel nauseous. I can't explain it when I eat so much of it. Yeah. And if you have it in a soup, it's different. Yeah. Then if you give me a gazpacho. Yeah. It's a totally different story. Like, no, I really can't do it. And that's the thing as well, is just get your nutrients down however you want. So if you don't feel like you can eat them solid, or this is an easy, convenient way for you to get all your vitamins in, great, then good for you. But don't try and give it. I'm not drinking it. I'll bring my overcooked cauliflower.
Jenna, we're going to wrap this one up and pick up where we left off next time really soon. We want to talk about your how to get off Diet Coke. We're going to talk about that, and we got a whole bunch more to talk about.
I know.
We got stuff. We got a whole list here that
we didn't even touch.
So this is the running joke of all the shows that I'm part of on Podaholiks, and I'm sure there's shows that this works. But I did the We Will Fix It guys, and we were having a chat, and our big thing is, so how much of the list did we get to today? And I think today we hit 2%, which is last week was 20. So I think that's good. We're starting.
Yeah, we're getting there. That's good. That gives us a whole load of percentage left.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic to see you again, and I look forward to talking real soon.
James, thanks for inviting me.
Podaholiks, Dr. Jenna, is who we're talking to. It's DocTalk. We'll talk to you again really soon. So long for now. You've been listening to DocTalk, a Podaholiks podcast with Dr. Jenna Burton and myself, James Pikeway. You want to find out more about what's going on the programs? Go to the socials, Podaholiks with a K, or drop us an email, podaholikswithak@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Share the link, and we'll talk to you again real soon.